Frigid Outskirts is probably the stupidest level in the entire series. Trying to navigate through a blizzard storm while getting backshots every 2 seconds by these infinitely spawning hi YouTube crowns this area as the worst boss run back. I'm not even sure if these reindeers actually have an infinite spawn, but I don't even know who's dumb enough to try. I remember struggling with this area so bad on my first playthrough, well, partially because I sucked at the game, and I still kinda do, so I don't know what's my argument here. But with the lack of direct internet access at the time, I had to consult my Soulsborne buddy who would put me on to the series. He came over to my house, said he got the strats ready, and confidently proceeded to die like 10 times before we got an attempt at the boss. The quote-unquote strat was going full cuck mode and summon the 2 NPCs at the start to watch them get fucked while I'd make a run for it.
And I'll watch, that's why I watch.
While this plan can be somewhat useful, it's still far from a saving grace. So, what are the redeeming qualities that, in spite of all the agony this area had put me through, turned it to one of my favorite moments in the game? There is none. Not even the satisfaction of beating its boss can save this cold mess of an area. But even though I rarely bother with it whenever I replay the game, I still vividly remember experiencing it for the first time. Not just because it was bad, but because it was so hilariously ridiculous that I remember my stomach hurting from how much I've laughed with my friends as we were going through it. And it's not like Dark Souls 2 is a bad game. In fact, I love this game, and I think it's amazing. It's almost a miracle how the game turned out to be with the time frame they had for developing it. This is a big reason why I even endured Frigid Outskirts. It's not like it's a bad level in a terrible game. In that case, I wouldn't even have bothered with any of this bullshit. But Dark Souls 2 is quite special, and these sorts of out-of-pocket designs are a part of the game's identity. Sure, the other entries in the series have these sorts of quote-unquote encounters, but none quite like DS2. Hell, you even get grabbed by mimics while you're standing directly behind them in this game. But for me, some of these highlights became the moments I remember the most fondly from my repeated playthroughs. So, my picks for these moments is entirely subjective, and these are not necessarily the best or the worst moments of the game, but the ones that stuck with me and made me appreciate the game with all of its ups and downs. There comes a time in every Soulsborne game I play where I get fed up with a fair fight and get the urge to doom my way through the game. Ideally, I would go by achieving this through mind-numbingly farming an area for souls to level up. Whether it's inviting every NPC and Darkroot guarding for a mass seppuku in Dark Souls 1, or handing out prostate exams for a couple of pigs in Bloodborne, I'll do whatever's necessary to get some souls. And I'm honestly somewhat addicted to these farming sessions. I actually quite enjoy the monotony of farming the same area over and over. It's sort of a relaxing and stress-free experience. Just put some music on and chill with the same couple of enemies for the evening. But in Dark Souls 2, I had to earn this quality time. And in the process, I discovered an intertwined web of quests that had me on overtime, trying to figure out solutions and alternatives. Taking me on a joyride that shifted my end goal of becoming the richest man in Dran Lake. You see, killing the Giant Lord repeatedly is widely known as the most optimal way for farming souls in the game, since his location is easily accessible through a nearby bonfire, and he conveniently houses a bonfire aesthetic in his arena that allows the fight to be reset indefinitely. But with every reset, the boss gets harder. His attack damage becomes higher, and most importantly, his health pool becomes larger. Where on the 7th reset and beyond, the Giant Lord settles on a health pool large enough to make the average build seem unviable and incredibly time-consuming. And so I needed something stronger, something broken. I had to go back and collect the most powerful spells, rings, items, and armors, optimizing my character for the fastest DPS possible, while also trying to absorb as much souls as possible. This is where I was finally forced to figure out what's up with this weirdo. It was obvious that this NPC was hiding something that could potentially be beneficial to my farming arsenal, But every time I spoke to this dude, he would just say some shit like,
"Just leave me alone, please."
and the only other thing I knew how to do was pulling the lever that would set him free. But that didn't seem to progress his quest in any significant way. It was obvious that there was more than meets the eye, but I had no clue on how to even approach this quest. Turns out that the approach in of itself was the key, where talking to this dude while being hollow unlocks his hidden persona, or grants access to a different soul within him to be lore accurate.
Are you tormented by memories? Burdened by guilt?
But just by hearing his more sinister sounding tone for the first time gave me goosebumps. Of course, his quest is on brand also, since he asks for a series of assassinations that had me sweating as an NPC pacifist. His method of confirming the death of the mentioned hit targets is to show him a particular proof for each one. More specifically, a personal item that only the selected victim would possess, a unique token of some sorts. This conundrum is one of my favorite moments because the game covertly allows for an alternative method for obtaining these items, and it does not involve killing anyone, but it opens up a Pandora's box of entangled affairs and quirky quests that captivated my attention for a while as I tried to figure out everything. For the first hit, Laddersmith Gilligan, he puts a price on everything, so it only makes sense that his token is up for sale as well. For Kale the Cartographer, I had to light up all of the 8 fires on his special map to get his token, which is a comprehensive quest all on its own. For Felkin the Outcast, he'd hand over his token only when the player character has at least 20 faith and 20 intelligence points. Thankfully, I've had already invested some points into these two for my sorcerer/hexer build, so I was able to get off easy on this one. Because otherwise, I don't think I was ever going to figure this one out with my usually melee-focused builds. But for the last token and for the ultimate reward, Navlan asks for the Firekeeper's assassination, which I don't know who's evil or dumb enough to actually do it, but her token is alternatively obtainable just by talking to her in the Dragon Eyrie part of the game. Having taken all these micro steps to reach my end goal of basically just farming, conveniently, was one of the moments I would cherish the most in the game and feel envious for anyone going in blind for the first time, trying to problem solve this fuckfest. But outside of a quest line or a specific area, I gotta say my experiences with bosses in this game is pretty up there. Probably for the wrong reasons, because as cool as some of these bosses are, I can't help cracking up at how comedic some of these encounters can be. And some for obvious reasons. But others for way more infuriating ones. And I'm not just talking about how difficult or unfair a fight can get, but things like Fume Knight having a block stance. God, I hate this shit. Like, what are you blocking for, dude? It's not like the boss have safe openings outside his recovery frames. Oh, and whenever I go for a heal attempt, he inputs reads that shit and decides to stop the act and fucks me. Don't get me wrong, Fume Knight is my favorite boss in the entire game, but the first time I got to play him I had like 5 levels invested in adaptability. And whoo, do these hits have range? The hitboxes on some of these attacks were so ridiculous that I named them after different cities because of how far they can connect. The North American name equivalent of this move would be called the Houston. But with that whole hitboxes can of worms aside, I love how some of these bosses possess something that's unique only to them, where some throw a distinct handicap at the player that is entirely optional to resolve, like burning the windmill next to Mitha's arena, which subsides a big portion of her poison swamp, or collecting the giant souls, where each one would cut King Vendrick's strength in half, or even finding the eye of the priestess that turns off the pet's invisibility. Some would consider the latter to be mandatory, but my dumbass didn't know about the eye thing and actually beaten him while he was hidden the first time around. But even more creative ones like killing the pursuer with the ballista, breaking the jars with the undead in the covetous demon arena, that will shift his attention and make him chase and feast on these poor little guys, or even killing the executioner chariot with a bow, I mean, no one said you absolutely have to drop down the gate and initiate the fight like a normal person. And it goes down even deeper with more subtle ones like wearing Velstad's helmet to Raim's fight, which would have him fuming straight into his second phase from the get-go. Or everyone's favorite, making Alon commit seppuku if you beat him with 0 hits taken. I feel like this sort of design approach took a back seat in the following games and somewhat made a comeback in Elden Ring. And I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but for me, it made for the most memorable boss encounters in Dark Souls 2. A statement that'll probably get someone triggered. It even got me a bit triggered just as I was saying it. Okay, so it's obvious that I love this game, and I will not accept any Dark Souls 2 slander in the comments.
Empty!
But the game has its issues. And I'm not talking about everyone's favorite mechanics like agility, hitboxes, and animation lock vulnerability. I'm over them at this point. After a gazillion playthroughs, I just started to invest in adaptability early on, safely dodge and reposition myself in every fight, and just deal with the fact that some areas are impractical to try and run past to reach the next fog gate or lever. But what actually grinds my gears is the inconvenient mechanics that has no reason to exist. They don't add or subtract anything to the game besides being slightly annoying. Like why the hell stamina regeneration is so slow. And I'm not talking about how much stamina is used whenever an action is performed. I get that part because I can see one-trick pony bosses and enemies getting absolutely mauled if stamina use was similar to Dark Souls 1 or 3. But the regeneration part of the stamina is what I don't get. And sure, aside from a few items, lowering the equip load does give a significant boost to it. But still, for the medium load builds, it's still way too slow for no reason, besides making the experience a bit more infernal. Same thing goes for weapon durability. Some of these weapons feel like a fluorescent neon light with how fast they break. I mean, I do like the various environmental sources that can cause weapons to rapidly degrade and break, but in the standard, plain setting, these weapons need flex tape. And finally, the abundant use of these lockstone contraptions and petrified stone statues in Scholar of the First Sin is ridiculous. It underwhelms the curiosity and the impact of finding out what's behind them, since otherwise, they add a good sense of mystery to the game. And they still do to an extent, but I would have loved to see their potential being capitalized to fit their stature. Now, these are some of the nitpicks I have in the game, and there is a few more like the fact that hitting the crystal lizards does not reset their despawn timer like the other titles. That is if you can hit them in the first place. But at this point, I'll probably start getting petty naming these ambiguous occurrences. I hate that Boop's jiggle physics are exclusive to the parry animation.
You nasty son of a bitch!
So let me get back to what the title indicates before this video turns into a Trojan horse for the things I hate. Going for the overpowered sorcerer build was probably the only time I've reaped the fruits of my labor. What I mean is, I rarely, if ever, make use of a reward I got from finishing a quest. I'd still do the quests in my casual playthroughs and collect the rewards, only so they can get stacked in my inventory collecting dust. Their value as an item never interested me, but they acted as a symbol of achievement for the ride. I always remember the objective itself and what I had to do to accomplish it, which is why getting the Platinum Trophy was an absolute goal I knew I had to achieve at some point. Not for the digital icon in itself, but because I knew I had to do an honest day's work to get it. Well, to be fair, I got most of these achievements naturally by just playing and progressing through the game, but after a while I started noticing that some of these will not just fall out of the sky, and that I had to do some work. Like the Gathering of Exiles achievement, which is basically finding and talking to certain NPCs to make them relocate back to Majula. But this guy won't even talk to me. Neither would this. Or this. Oh, but if I wear this ring, he does. But is it even possible to relocate him back to Majula? What about this dude? Is he just going to chill here? Forever? With so many NPCs, it took me a good while to know who's even eligible for a Majula green card. Or who's even connected to a different trophy, but still these are all light work. The real trophies are the 4 horsemen of spells. Obtaining every spell in the game requires a variety of tasks. Some can be found, some can be available at higher new game cycles, and others might need progressing in a specific quest. But the worst and most grindy are the ones that are rewarded after reaching a high rank in a particular covenant. And to do that, I had to farm their respective covenant token, which can drop randomly from certain enemies. I have spent tens of hours farming these crosswalking dumb fucks, hoping for the abysmally low drop rate to bless me with the item drop. And while I do enjoy a good farming session, I needed 30 of those. And the vile part is that I read somewhere online that after the 16th, the drop rate plummets down horrendously. Now I don't know how accurate or factual that information is, but I could swear that after I collected the 16th one, I didn't get the next for like 2.5 hours. It drove me crazy. But just like everything else in this game, whatever drove me crazy were usually the things that felt the most rewarding in the end. At the time, attaining all achievements felt just that, rewarding. But looking back at it now and including it as one of my favorite moments in the game is for an entirely different reason. You see, acquiring every achievement doesn't even scratch the surface of what this game has to offer. And while the same can be said for the other entries in From Software's modern catalog, I still feel like Dark Souls 2 is pretty up there in terms of how vague and unique its secrets can be. Some are fairly known to the experienced player, like the fact you can ring the ship summoning bell from afar with an arrow in No Man's Worth. Some are harder to spot, like the hidden hollows, and some are extremely ambiguous, like the spawning of the giant undead boar in Majula, which happens if you kill the enslaved pigs by the mansion 15 times and then kill the resultant undead boars 15 times as well. Or the fact that blue flame starts appearing on the map in the Majula mansion when the player kills certain bosses at the New Game Plus 7 cycle of the game. Another is collecting 50 Lois souls will shatter the ice twigs at the Grand Cathedral and give access to Alsana for a variety of extra dialogues and rewards. And a personal favorite is the fact that you can bring this undead boar all the way from the Royal Army campsite to the cathedral in Seldora, where he would eat a patch of mushrooms that would expose a body with a hidden weapon. The nature of these secrets can even extend to ones that are more lore-related, like the giant ant in the gutter. The gutter is one of the most poisonous areas in the game, and the ant, who is a product of Aldia's ambitious experiments, produces these strange fumes that seemingly have no apparent effect. Turns out, these fumes act in correspondence to the area's poisonous nature, and they actually heal the player of the poisonous status. I know it's not a big deal, but it's a good case of lore-connected world design. Sinking deeper down the iceberg of comprehending this game would abolish the use of the term quote-unquote secrets, as it fully undermines how expansive its scope can be, where symbolic references to the Holy Trinity and the fifth element can be invoked, or even going full psychopath and trying to philosophically dissect the game's deepest conundrums of the human condition, the state of the world, and the nature of these acts and relationships would make anyone miss a couple of showers, because the game definitely has the substance for such analysis. My point is, in almost everything I have just mentioned, I had discovered after I obtained all achievements. The false sense of completion I got from the Platinum Trophy was quickly shattered and marked the jump start of my journey to discover the obscurities of this magical world. So, choosing to pick the moment I got the Platinum Trophy as the last one is kind of an open-ended statement, because I've been enjoying the game thoroughly ever since, to a point where I would consider the entire game as a moment that I love in my life.